Manufacturing in Shenzhen is everywhere. From the tiniest parts to the assembly lines that bring them together to the massive factories that scale them up. I'm Becky Stern, and this is Made in Shenzhen. By this point in the trip, we'd seen how circuit boards are made and how LEDs are produced at a large scale.
Yeah, how many pieces do they make per day?
20 kk.
20 million. Yeah.
A day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Today, we're visiting Seed Studio's Agile Manufacturing Center, built to quickly scale product prototypes and produce their first few thousand units. They focus on optimizing the messy middle steps between idea and mass-produced product. The tour walks us through the whole path. Our guide's name is Nico. First up, receiving parts inspection. Sensitive parts are stored on anti-static mats that dissipate any charge that could damage them. There's also dedicated storage for testing jigs, solder paste stencils, and packaging materials.
So far, I think it's all really cool. They do everything in-house,
yeah.
Even the packaging and everything.
Onto the surface mount assembly line. This picks up where our other factory tours left off. We've got printed circuit boards and reels of components, and this line will bring them together to form a functional circuit that either is or can go inside the final product. The first machine applies solder paste to the PCB using a stencil and a squeegee, not too dissimilar to the silkscreened processes we saw earlier in the PCB factory. So solder paste is applied only where it is needed to connect to the components. Then the board is automatically fed into the next machine, called a pick and place, which picks up the components from their reels and places them in their precise locations on the board. These parts can be super tiny, so a camera on the toolhead is used to accurately position them. Now that the board is populated with parts, it's time to fix them in place by melting the solder, which is done using a solder reflow oven. The temperature is ramped up, then back down again, following a specific profile, so the solder melts and hardens again, connecting the surface mount components to the board both electrically and physically. After assembly, the boards go through AOI, or Automatic Optical Inspection, which verifies the placement of the components to catch anything that may have shifted out of place during solder reflow. If the board has any through-hole components, a different machine squirts the underside of the board with a fountain of molten solder.
But it's like a very specific fountain.
Yeah, not a waterfall.
Is it possible to open the doors? Yeah, you can really see how the solder mask is protecting the leads from accidentally getting bridged.
Next, the boards undergo electrical testing, which includes loading demo firmware and confirming the device functions as expected. Tests will vary depending on the specific product, and creating the tests and the testing jigs is an important part of scaling up production. Another big part of what they're doing here is helping people avoid mistakes before scaling up. Design for manufacturing is about sourcing parts and labor that remain available and stable in price, optimizing the design to ensure a smooth workflow through board fab assembly and testing, and managing packaging and fulfillment logistics. Seed is famous in the maker world for its excellent and affordable microcontroller boards and accessories, but what you may not know is that they also help partners create full solutions like environmental and agricultural monitoring systems. Seed's founder, Eric Pan, explained how this all works within the surrounding supply chain of the Shenzhen Bay Area. Nearby cities specialize in different parts of the process, and those parts can get to the AMC within 2 hours. The whole region functions like a giant workshop and supplies 80 to 90% of the world's electronics products. So, for example, at Maker Faire Shenzhen, I met Benjamin, who makes this rad mini-cord pocket instrument, and it happens to be one of the products being manufactured at the Seed AMC.
Benjamin, look, we found your product on the shelf.
Yes. Well, I'm very happy to see them, and they'll come back in stock soon, so that's a great thing.
Yeah.
The last room in the factory we visited was the newly built production line specializing in robots. While we were there, they were working on an articulating robot arm and also the new Ricci Mini. The last place I'll bring you on my trip to Shenzhen's not actually in Shenzhen at all. It's across the bay in Zhuhai. We're on our way to the JLCPCB factory. We've been to a PCB factory already earlier in this series, but this one is much larger and more automated. As we learned from Eric at Seed, new environmental policies in Shenzhen relegate factories with large amounts of hazardous chemicals to the outskirts of town, or in this case, across the bay. Our guide, Michael, showed us around and translated for the foreman. Here, most of the process is enclosed. Instead of open vats of chemicals, everything moves through horizontal production lines, which aren't easy to see inside. It's cleaner and safer, but harder to visually follow. And we're following a more complex multi-layer board production line too. But the same main processes are happening. First, the boards are cut to size. Then they are coated with etch resist. I love how these machines fan out the board so they can dry in between steps.
You can see that these are all pretty thin because they're like etching each layer individually. So when you design a multi-layer PCB, it's actually a multiple layer that they make separate layers of and then they laminate them together.
Very accurately.
Very accurately.
Everything at JLC uses precise positioning based on optical markings. So the camera finds the markings and then lines everything up.
There are 16 cameras take picture of the board and compare with the Gerber file, production file.
I saw him taking the Gerber file picture and putting it on top of the actual picture.
Yes, to compare.
So this is what actually exposes the photosensitivity before the etching.
Yes, right. We only expose the area which we need.
You expose the area which you need, and then the
then
etching removes everything else.
Yes. So this area is exposure, and those areas are not exposed. And then we will peel it off. Film, then we will start etching the copper that we don't need.
After the individual layers are etched, they are stacked up with the other layers from their same design with insulating layers in between. An adhesive is activated when the stack is heated up, joining the layers together. The inner layers are then laminated with copper foil on both sides to create the top and bottom layers of the final PCB.
What do you think, David?
I think it's pretty cool. I've never been in a circuit board factory that has this level of automation before.
I sat down with JLC's Rebecca Chen to learn more about the electronics boom in Shenzhen.
I think still have some people think that all the products made by China is low quality, and also the Chinese factory condition is pretty poor. I think if you have been to the JLCPCB factory, you can understand what I mean. It's like it's tidy, it's clean, and also
safe.
It's advanced. Yeah, it's safe.
It's the third time this trip I've heard this exact sentiment. The horizontal etching line makes the next steps pretty hard to see, but basically the boards are washed with the etchant solution, then rinsed. We also saw an etching line for outer layers. It was cool to see the crystalline buildup here and there. And the resulting boards are so shiny when they emerge from the machines. Solder mask and silkscreen layers are applied next. This automated silkscreen machine prints and cures the material in quick succession. One of my favorite rooms was the flying probe test area, where machines rapidly check every connection on orders too small to warrant a custom jig. It's mesmerizing, and it really demonstrates how quality control scales up with a larger number of relatively small orders. I've never seen so many machines running simultaneously. The final step is to route the boards out from their panels and package them up. We got to see the machine that vacuum seals the boards before shipping out to the customer. Rebecca points out that Shenzhen's unique geographical location near Hong Kong, a major international financial hub, and at the mouth of a large river, provided a strategic choice for development and investment from the Chinese government in infrastructure.
Shenzhen is modern, vibrant, and progressive.
And Rebecca leaves us with some parting advice.
So stay curious and pay attention to the emerging fields like AI, robotics, and the sustainable energy. You keep to learning new skills.
Thanks to everyone who appears in this series. I had such a great time. At the beginning of this series, I came to Shenzhen to see how electronics are made. And yes, the physical processes and machines are just as fascinating as I thought they'd be. But what surprised me were the in-between systems, the incredible density of highly specialized intercompatible businesses and expertise that make the place run, and fast. This is the third and final episode in the Made in Shenzhen series. If you haven't seen them already, don't miss the previous episodes in this series to see inside another PCB factory with a different vibe, visit an LED factory, and explore the electronics market in Huashangbei. But even across 3 episodes, this is still just a small slice of what I got to experience in Shenzhen. On Nebula, I've uploaded extended versions of all 3 episodes in this series, so you can spend more time inside these factories and in conversations with experts like Rebecca. In the extended cut, we get deeper into how Shenzhen became this incredibly dense, fast-moving ecosystem. There are also a lot more in-between moments, like what we ate for lunch and what we chatted about as we walked the factory floors. Those versions feel a lot closer to how it actually felt to be there. And that's why I like putting projects like this on Nebula. Nebula is a home to a growing library of creator-made videos you won't find anywhere else, with extended cuts, originals, and early releases, all completely ad-free. It gives me the space to tell these stories at their natural pace. If you've been enjoying the series, I think you'll really appreciate the extended scenes. Nebula currently has over 200 creators, with something for everyone. Some of my recent favorites include Minute Physics' explainer on camera ISO, Tom Scott's new early releases from his new series touring every county in England, and the crazy fast logistics of flower distribution by Half as Interesting. Right now, you can get 50% off an annual subscription using my link. It's about $30 a year, and it directly supports my videos. So if you want to watch the full versions of this series and everything else great on Nebula, head to the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. And if you do, I recommend starting from the beginning and watching the full series there. Because for me, the trip changed how I think about technology, business, and global society. Thanks for watching.